So are you the type of person who wants to be a little bit more creative, but just don't know how to step into it? You might want to be posting a little bit, maybe more on social media. You want to be like one of those cool people, like throwing things out there. But for some reason, you're not able to get yourself to step into that creativity. And today we're going to talk about different ideas, different things that we could start to do to just get ourselves into that motion and building that muscle. And I really believe it's a muscle because when I first started out on my own journey, my own creative journey, what I realized is that there were times where I was just like everything was clicking and everything was going nicely for me, and then other times it's like really hard, and I had to sit down and think about it. And whenever I was able to get into that flow state, things just seemed to come so easily, and I was able to get a little bit more creative, take a little bit more risks, and really be able to make sure that I was going to step into the places and to do the stuff that I wanted to do, and therefore allow other people to to see that. So whether it's in your marketing aspect of your business, whether it's in the media aspect of your business, or whether if it's even like changing things up in your sales or even your product and stuff like that, if we could start to get a little bit more creative in terms of how it is we're going to approach it, we're not going to be like everybody else. Because if we can start to see for ourselves that, hey, if we're going to stand out, we're going to do things a little bit differently over here, and that's how we're going to make ourselves different. Because in every industry, there's so many people that are doing what we're doing, and for anybody who's new for entrepreneurship or really just business in general, the question is like, how are you going to do things differently? If you do them faster, if you do them more efficiently, then those are things that you could stand out by. But there's a lot of people, and everyone's trying to do that. So how is it that we can do the things differently? And sometimes really stepping into our creative aspect can be something that could really start to shift things and just give a little bit of flair. And it could also be even used for our relationships. If you're in a relationship that's getting a little bit stale, or things are just going and you want to do something different, you want to get things excited instead of just going on some type of vacation, what is it we can start to do to allow ourselves to really step into what it is that we want? And I think for so many people, it's difficult to get into that creative state. It's hard to be able to just say, hey, how is it that I'm supposed to tap into this to allow myself to start to see that success? And once we could start to figure that out, once we have the availability to do these things, then all of a sudden things are going to be looking a lot differently, and we're going to be able to really start to take action in different areas of our life. So let's just into it and see what it is we could start to do. So the first thing that I like doing is to really just get up and get out. And for so many people, they're so used to their routine, and routine's an amazing thing. And I'm a big proponent of having a routine. But what happens when we have a routine is we end up thinking and we end up doing things subconsciously, or maybe we're so disciplined in terms of what it is that we're doing that we are so focused on specific things in our life, and we can't really see the bigger picture. And by just taking a break and getting up and doing something differently, or taking a different way to work, or to go on a walk a different path, all of a sudden what that does is it opens up different compartments in the brain and allows us to just notice and see different things. I even noticed one time I was on a walk and I noticed that I was always looking on at the floor in front of me. And it was interesting because I'm like, probably like, just make sure I'm not going to trip. But then I started to see, okay, let me pick my head up. And I noticed that I was walking down streets with like beautiful trees and bushes and plants and all these amazing things. And I was like, oh my gosh, I literally walk down the street every single time, but I just did it a little bit differently. I built the habit to be doing something. And sometimes habits are great, and sometimes habits you just need to do X, Y, and Z in order to see certain results. But to tell yourself and to say to yourselves, hey, I could just change things up a little bit. I could do things differently. I could go a different way. All of a sudden, what happens is we start to see things differently. We start to see the outside world differently. And you could just focus on that and start to say, that's interesting. Even just go outside and like look at all the different shades of green. Right now it's the spring. I don't know when you're listening to this, but by me it's the spring, and like there's lots of different bushes and trees coming out, and there's so many different shades of green. And you just notice like, that's something that's really cool. I never noticed all the different shades of green. And if we start to open up our perspective just a little bit, all of a sudden that can start to shift and change so much for us. We can start borrowing from one area of our life that's going to translate into other areas of our lives as well. And all it really is just seeing things from a different angle. It's looking at a die, like a dice, and you're looking at one side, but you don't realize all the numbers on the other sides. And if we can start to see different perspectives, different sides of the same coin, then all of a sudden things can start to shift. And maybe it's, you're moving your desk in your office to the other side. Maybe instead of sitting at your desk all day you're working, you're going to be going, sitting on the floor somewhere, or you're going to take take a chair outside and do some work. And what it does is it changes up to give some freshness, because when we have freshness, when we have newness to us, we have all the ideas, we have all the creativity. For anybody who's got a new job, and you walk in the first day, there's so many ideas that you have that you might want to be sharing. It's like, oh my gosh, I think we could do things like this and things like that. But then after time, end up saying that we end up getting into the routine of what's going on, how things work, and what it is that you've been doing, and really just falling into that trap. And imagine if we could have that excitement, that perspective, every single day we show up to work, from the first day till our last day there. Hopefully it's a long time. And just saying, hey, I could be so creative every single time. I can show up and I can start to see different things from a different side. Because by doing that, then all of a sudden we have this ability. We have the chance to really start to shift things in such a different way. So for so many people, if you could just look to shift things just a little bit, that could be something that can start to shape the perspective. And all you have to do is really just do what you're doing, but just do it differently, right? You go on your phone calls, but maybe go on a walk here on your calls, right? Maybe it's doing your emails, but maybe it's doing your emails outside, or maybe it's doing your emails at a different time of day, or whatever it might be. Listen to different type of music, whatever it could be to shift things up. That's going to really allow us to step into our creativeness. The second idea that I would love to talk about is the idea of collaboration. You see, for so many of us, so we have our own ideas and we have a certain way that we want things to be. For us, that's like the only perspective that we see. And if we could start to collaborate with different people, if we could start to say to ourselves, hey, you know what, there's other people around who also have certain skills, and we have the humility to understand that maybe I'm not the best at everything, then all of a sudden what happens is that we get the chance to be able to step into new opportunity. Because so many times we don't understand, but just by talking with somebody, if you give your idea and then they're digesting that and they tell you back their idea, and all of a sudden you digest their idea that they're getting off of your first idea, and then you're digesting it and spitting it back to them, then all of a sudden you have this circle of going back and forth. And it's so powerful because when you have the right people and when you have the right collaboration, 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. It equals it's like 10x. And what we have to recognize is that we all have the ability to speak to other people, to get other people's perspectives, because everybody's perspective is based on their own life, they're based on their own experiences that gotten to where they are that day. If we could start to say to ourselves, hey, we have different people around us that we have the availability to start to connect with, start to speak to, that could be something that could start to shift. And all we have to do is to really just look to collaborate with one another. And that's whether that's a conversation or whether that's, doing some type of bigger collaboration, running an event together. But to start to say that you have these superpowers and I have these superpowers, see what happens when you mix them together, then all of a sudden you get something really, really special. And it's one of the most powerful things. And one of the things I'm really jealous of bigger teams is that you have so many more people to be able to give their perspective. And if you have a rock star team of people who are so creative, people who really just want to be doing the best work, then all of a sudden they want to be able to do things such an amazing way. And for so many of us, we're looking to do things by ourselves, and we have to understand the power of teaming with people, the power of other people. I have a video on my YouTube channel about what it is we could start to do to get ourselves, if somebody's an introvert, to get out there a little bit more. And I talk about why it is important to get ourselves out there. Because for so many people, they don't realize that they're really just holding themselves back, that they're not giving themselves a chance to see that success. And if we can start to recognize and we can start to see for ourselves, hey, you know what, there's a little bit more to it. There's a little bit more that I can start to take over here and allow myself to see, that could start to shift everything. So recognize when we're collaborating with other people, we have the ability to start to change and to start to do so much more. The next thing the next idea I think that people could take advantage of is to really start to get inspired by other people and by other industries. You see, if we have something that we're looking to do and we see other people doing it, so if we're literally copying the other person and they're in our industry, then all of a sudden what happens is that could be some type of plagiarism, even though I think it was Picasso who said there's every artist steals from the better artists because they're constantly learning all the techniques that they've learned. And if we could start to understand by ourselves, okay, what is it we're looking to do? How can we start to be inspired by other people in different industries? Then all of a sudden we have that availability to start to take advantage of that. We have the availability of saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to take a little bit of spice over there and a little bit of spice over there. I'm going to mix it into my own 2 spices. And all of a sudden I have this different beast over here that I can start to move forward with. And in the beginning, it might be awkward and it might not really flow, but the more you put into it, the more you start to nurture it, the more love you give to it, and all of a sudden it'll blossom into something bigger. So for so many of us, if we could just understand that if we could start to get inspired by other perspectives, by other industries, then all of a sudden we can start to incorporate those ideas into what that we're doing. So if you're in the marketing industry and you watch a video on sales, how can you implement that into what you're doing? Or whether you're in the marketing industry and you market, chiropractors, and then all of a sudden you see a sporting company commercial, and you're like, hey, you know what? I could probably take that sports commercial and try to do things a little bit differently in the chiropractic world. And all of a sudden we have like a great idea. Then all of a sudden you're taking these ideas and you're implementing into how it is that you can start to apply them. And for so many people, they're not getting inspired by other people. They look to see what it is their own force for feet. And what happens when they do that is that they don't really recognize what else is going on there. It's the idea, like Gary Vee, whenever he was on any social media platform, he randomly starts to search things like bananas or like gorillas or whatever it is that he's trying to search, because what happens is that he knows the algorithm is feeding him what he likes. And what he wants to see is what other people like in other areas, because if he could become the best in such random categories, and all of a sudden he's going to have more people following him and more people coming into his circle. And I thought that was genius, because so many times we've, and I think this is one of the issues with the internet, is that we only get fed what it is that we see. And we get so passionate based on what it is that we see, but we have to recognize that there's another side that is getting fed all the stuff that they want to see. And what we have to recognize and what we have to see is like, what is it that we can start to do? How that we can start to put ourselves into the situation? Because once we have that availability, once we could start to see other people and what it is that they're going through, then all of a sudden we start to take that perspective a little bit into what is that we're doing. And all of a sudden we can start to share that and get more creative that way. And I think the most powerful point that I'm going to speak about today is the idea of really looking to take risks. You see, when it comes to the creative world, it's all about risk. Like, we have an idea that's going to be so funny, that's going to be so cool. And I was like, you have to put yourself out there. You have to say, okay, this is the risk I'm willing to take. And the question we need to ask ourselves, like, how do we know if it's going to work or not? I don't know if it's going to be a flop or not. And the answer is we don't know. We have no idea if this thing is going to work or not. But what we do know is that we can try to our best they can, put it out there. And not just that, we get the feedback to continue it the next time. Versus so many people, we might have the idea of doing something. And what we have to try to do is understand we have to take the risk. We have to jump in a little bit. And not just that, we have to take the ability to be able to get that feedback. I'm currently working on a new strategy within my social media. I recently recorded a couple of videos. You're going to hopefully see them out soon, and shorts, but a different perspective. And for me personally, that is something that I'm just getting creative with. I'm just going to see how it works. I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to do a few of these videos, see how they go, see how the feedback is. And then based on the feedback, I'm going to be able to put it back in and start to get better and better and better. When I watch the recordings, I'm taking notes, I'm mental notes. So, okay, let me make sure I do X, Y, and Z next time. Let me make sure I do this. And by doing that, then all of a sudden I have that availability to start to get better. I have the availability to start to do more. And for so many people, they want to be able to take that risk. But the risk is like only the first part. It's maybe the scariest part, but the first part. But with the more important part is to get that feedback. Because once you can get that feedback, and once you can bring that back into what is that you're looking to do, that's going to be the things that's going to start to shift it all. Because for so many people, they try something, it doesn't work, and they consider it as like a failure. They consider it as something that it just takes away all of their creative aspect. What we need to understand is like, no, I tried this, it didn't work, but what can I learn from this? And what's the next iteration of this? And once I can start to move forward and really take that step, then all of a sudden I have the availability to start to move forward and to really start to see that success that I want. Because we all want to be successful on the first shot, but we don't understand it might take 20, 30, 40, 50 times for us to continue to iterate to really get to where it is that we want to be going. You look at all the successful, influencers out there. You look at their videos now versus what they were like when they originally started, and it's night and day. How awkward they might have been, their lighting and their mic setup and their just transitions and all the different things that they're looking to do. And if we could start to say to ourselves, what is it that we can start to do? What is it that I can start to really take upon me to allow myself to start to move forward within the different areas of my life? Then all of a sudden I have a different perspective in terms of what it is I could start to do. And that is something that is so powerful when it comes to our own creative potential. Because if we can start to step into it, if we can start to give ourselves different perspectives on how it is we can start to move forward, that's going to be the thing that's going to shift it all. That's going to be the thing that is going to make us different. It's going to make us step out of it from everybody else. So what is it that you're going to be doing? You're going to go on that different walk. Are you going to go on are you going to look at it a little bit differently? Are you going to look to collaborate with people, speak to other people, try to figure out what other people are doing to allow yourself to just see things differently? Get feedback from other people, see what they think. And they could be wrong, but just get it back. That's good information. Are you going to be inspired by other people, by other industries? Like, instead of swipe every time like an advertisement goes by, maybe take a look at it and say, hey, what do they do? What are their colors that they're using? What's their hook that they're using? Right? How are they engaging me into conversation? And once we do that, and once we can start to take those risks, then all of a sudden we can learn from our mistakes. We can continuously get that feedback, and all of a sudden we have the availability to put ourselves in the right position. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. If anybody has any comments, feel free to write them down over here, or feel free to DM me. I'll see everybody on the next one.